too, that I think it should be noted that we want to pay the $500 upfront and save that $100.
Yes,
in
absolutely.
improvements.
Yep.
Never want to assume. All right, any further discussion? All right, with that, it's a resolution. Vote again.
Councilmember Cahill.
Aye.
Councilmember Fay.
Aye.
Councilmember DeLuca.
Aye.
Councilmember Broda.
Aye.
Mayor Moskowski.
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-0.
All right. Next item of business is Metropolitan Livable Communities Grant Agreement Extension.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I've got a little bit of a good news here. Initially, I know that this was communicated in our weekly updates that I send out pertaining to the Metropolitan Council in 2012 awarded the city of Maple Plain a substantial amount of money, just short of $900,000, for work on our downtown site. A lot of this money was used for obtaining land that we've put together for an exclusive land developers agreement with, currently it's with Gordon James Construction. There's been a lot of work in terms of making the site prepared, buying out a business. Multiple parcels of land were purchased by the city to set up this block of land that is developable to a developer to help with our downtown rejuvenation. So a lot of the money from this grant made this possible to where we're at right now. We were made aware that this grant was expiring at the end of this year, and staff went ahead, as there is money set aside and scheduled for different purposes within this grant. And some of that money would be for a street reconstruction project along Main Street, west here in town, or east, it's still east, Main Street east. As a result, that street has not been completed because we still, at this time, we're working on developing the site. And it is in the city's best interest to wait to see if that development happens before reconstructing the street. For the simple fact of, if we reconstruct a street and then development does happen, you're essentially taking off many years of life off of that street. So staff went and asked Metropolitan Council for a extension on this. We did that through email communication, and we were awarded a 2-year extension that would now bring us through December 31st, 2019, instead of expiring at the end of this year. So with City Council's approval, we would send this off to the Metropolitan Council and get this processed so we can continue working with these assets.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? All right. Looking for a motion to approve the Metropolitan Livable Communities Grant Agreement Extension.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Broda.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Fay. Any further discussion? All
I
in-
just wanted to say thank you for getting this extended. I know Mark had mentioned that this isn't often that they do it, so thank you for the great work with that and getting it even further than we thought. So
Absolutely.
Wasn't this the agreement that they were only going to extend it 1 year?
right,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
got
they
it
got
added
it
to
to
so
two.
got
Thank
2.
you.
So really good job. Yeah.
Be a huge help. All right. Any further discussion or comments? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Next item of business, Resolution 17-1218-06, the street reconstruction preparation of plans and final feasibility study. I'm gonna turn that over to-
Yes, so I
Speak into the microphone.
wanna, yeah, I gotta get close. You see those rock band people? They're always like really up close to the microphones, but yes.
Dan, you're not a rock star.
No, I wish I could be. But some good feedback, I think, from the public tonight for the council to discuss. I think if I'm going to do a quick summary without looking at all my notes, it sounds like they're, and maybe I was thinking now maybe I should have discussed how sometimes with the 26-foot wide street, that restricts parking to one side, especially if you have, complaints, et cetera. That's kind of what happened on Rainbow and Main Street West. where parking is on one side, and I don't know, right now, you guys probably know more. When I'm driving up, I don't see a lot of parking, so I don't know if it's, maybe people have a long enough driveways, so if people come and visit them, they park in the driveway and there's no parking on the street, but it just seemed like they're not in favor of a wider street. They don't want a sidewalk, and keep those costs down as low as you can. And as far as curb and gutter, I know there was some feedback on, with a surmountable curb, there is that kind of drive every time you pull up. But they've made some improvements over the years on surmountable curb. It's a little more curvy, but there still definitely is 4 inches of rise and 2 inches. And I think the reason I recall in the past that the council wanted the surmountable was just giving people more room when they pulled off on the side of the street. That if they're parking on the street, surmountable, people will pull up and drive on that whole 2-foot curb, where if it's the barrier type curb, they got that 8 inches that they don't park on. So it's, historically, you have parts of town that have all the barrier curb and it just drops down at the driveways. And I think at the time that was just something the council wanted to consider. And I don't hear a lot of complaints from people, but we have people on the council that drive over that surmountable every day, so they can weigh in.
Well, I'd say the barrier curve, it seems they want to limit parking because it's not the residents who want parking. So maybe the barrier is even better because it'll keep people from parking as much.
Right, it seemed there was that concern, and maybe is that what they're seeing is people going to the park that just start parking on.
And to clarify, they're talking about the Baker Park
Correct.
loop, right? Not
Right.
Northside Park.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, both. When it's really busy on weekends for like soccer games, they'll park all the way down
there?
Independence. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is significant.
Gotcha.
I do think there were a couple of bits of feedback that kept striking me during the public hearing, and one of them was that we need to get our fine police department on slowing people down on that road. The second one was the idea of having a public information day in January that I don't think we had in our schedule,
Right.
but I think that should be built in somehow.
Mhm.
Those were the
I
two
agree.
things that hit me that were the
And-
best.
And one thing now when I think of it, the one property owner bringing up about a survey, and it's, what I see sometimes is people at a meeting, if everyone seems to be against something, there might be some people that do want something. So that's why, maybe that's one reason why that property owner wasn't comfortable talking about, well, I want a sidewalk, because the rest of your neighbors are there that are saying no, and so that's why, well, can you send out a
And that's
survey?
what the public hearing is for.
Right,
And
right.
we are very transparent. We've had multiple public sessions about this,
Right.
and a good turnout tonight of people that were interested, so.
Right.
And they'll have additional opportunities.
Right. And it is something that I know, that sidewalk was added on Bud Avenue from the going by the church and the apartments kind of later on. So it is something that if all of a sudden you decide to add it, it's not from an engineering standpoint, because we're getting the curb right to match into grades. If you put a sidewalk right next to the curb, it's not a big issue. So if the council felt, you wanted more feedback at that January meeting from people as they look at it, we definitely could add something in, prior to your February plans coming back.
Dan, did you lead with 32 feet versus 26 feet and sidewalk versus no sidewalk because that is how you'll present the specifications and the plans, or do you still plan on having this bid out in multiple different scenarios?
No, I think on the width of the street, we'd want some direction on that, because there is more time spent if all of a sudden you're going to go out to 32 feet versus 26. So I think it was something in the feasibility report for discussion, and we wanted to give you both costs because it is something that, and I think it was talked about at a staff level too, just that, hey, we're reconstructing that stretch, Independence to the west of Howard is wider, or right by the school here, so do we ever want to keep that width going and allow parking on both sides? So I would look for direction, at least on that width side. The curb and gutter, it would be good to have direction, just because, everything is about 2 inches different on top of curb if you're going with surmountable versus a barrier. One is 6 inches high, the other is 4 inches high. So just keeping grades working and not redoing things, it would be good to have your feedback on that too.
Yeah.
I think on the lining, I just feel, let's give a alternate. That's not a big item to say, hey, we're going to take an alternate on lining this stretch and see where the costs come in, and then we can give you some final feedback on that sewer lining item.
Well, maybe we should take all those one at a time.
Sure.
Mhm.
And answer all those.
Mhm.
So, first one I heard was you wanted feedback on the curb.
Sure.
Anyone have any strong opinions? What did you hear tonight?
I mean, based on the residents, and I'd say barrier.
Right.
They came out both during the walk and tonight.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It did come out on the walk as
Mhm.
well.
All right,
'Cause
barrier.
That's what I heard tonight,
Yeah.
but I wasn't at
I
the
got
walk.
barrier.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
The other thing I heard direction on was the width of the street.
Right.
I have a question about that.
Yep.
Do we have any data about whether it actually does slow people down, and whether people still go fast and all of a sudden it's just less safe because we have less space? I mean, because if you have cars parked and it's closer, people seem to think they'll slow down, but do we know if that's the case?
I think there probably is some data out there that says, from a transportation study, if you have a wider street, people tend to feel more comfortable. But as soon as you add parking, right, they start slowing down. And so I think when people say it's just going to become a racetrack, I mean, I think speeds do, people can speed up, but what the percentage of the speed, if they drive 35 now, is driving 37 or 38 is a big difference, because they're already speeding on a road because they're. So I could find some information on that, and
I was just curious if you knew, because I'm fine with a smaller street width as long as it's not a safety issue. Because I think we're going to have parking on that street
But
regardless.
it would be one side, correct? If we
Right, I mean, that's-
26?
Oh,
I
we're
mean,
going to
and
change,
you-
because it's not right now, correct?
right, you
I thought
do.
That's what I heard earlier.
Yeah, you do have streets in town that are 26 feet that aren't maybe striped for no parking on one side. But I mean, it started on the Main and Rainbow, that issue of, are we gonna, okay, if we build it 26 feet and, our fire trucks want 20 feet or something, they go through and they're parking on one side. So it kind of started there, and you kind of kept it going on Bud and.
Well, and I think we need it for safety. I mean, to your
Right.
point, like you just
Yeah,
brought up, the
exactly.
fire trucks. If our fire trucks can't get through, it's our
Mhm.
responsibility to keep everyone safe, so.
Yep.
You're saying 26 feet with no parking on one side.
Mhm.
Now
If
let
we
me-
go the 26
Now,
route, I
let me
think.
ask you this, because
Mhm.
5 years ago, I was part of that walking and bike path, and there was a tremendous amount of discussion on marking Independence as
Mhm.
I was not in favor of it simply because of the cost, because of the painting and the striping, and so the other thing was, if you do it, you'd have to restrict parking out in front where it's 32 feet, out in front of here. So I'm still not sold that the walking and bike path, the marked walking and bike path, is a good fit on Independence.
Mhm. Sure.
So for that reason, then, I'm perfectly willing to maintain the 26 feet down at the other end. And if a walking and bike path has to be marked, let's allow the county to do it and bring you in from the Hawk Signal to the park,
Down 19.
down 19.
Sure.
Is
Sure.
that fair?
Mhm, yeah.
How does city council feel pertaining towards a sidewalk, no sidewalk? That was one of the other topics.
One of my questions with regard to the sidewalk, is there any chance, any type of grants, anything out there? I mean, we're trying to connect our park, the school, the park at the school, the Three Rivers Parks. I mean, is there
Yeah.
anything out there?
There is.
that can
There's a
help us?
safe schools grant, and that's up in January here. You can apply and try to get that. It provides a safe way. Obviously, you can get it from the Discovery Center where there's a sidewalk and extend that down possibly to Baker Park Road. You can put together really any kind of project that provides a trail or a sidewalk to a school.
'Cause
I'm not sure if that's mandated where that has to be a trail and can't be a sidewalk. Every single time I know that grant's been used, it's been a trail, and sometimes they get very specific with how that's laid out. I'd have to look at that, but that's the one that comes to my mind at this time.
Because I think it was kind of a mixed message tonight. People are concerned about the kids and the speed, so then obviously you'd want the sidewalk for safety and to use all of our wonderful resources, but then it also increases the expense. So the underlying
Mhm.
issue is, if it's gonna increase our expense, then we don't want it. So is there a way we could find a grant or pull? I guess I'm leaning towards the sidewalk just because of safety and because of how much walking and all the children on this street
Sure.
and this stretch. So that's just my gut. I don't know what.
Well, and I think a tough thing to deal with, and I know Dan can probably speak to this a lot better than I can, is that anytime you add a sidewalk to a residential area that doesn't have a sidewalk, you're adding maintenance for those people to take care of in the winter. And typically, no one is really thrilled about shoveling a sidewalk when you haven't had to shovel one in forever.
Right.
So,
The fodder at that night, that walk around was what I heard from the people that were on Independence, that they were not in favor of a sidewalk, a path to where, you know, they were wondering why, we don't need it now, why do we need it in the future?
Yeah.
You heard that too?
I think even tonight it was loud and clear.
Yeah.
No sidewalk, no widening of the road, and so,
That answers something.
yeah, I mean, I gotta go with that. So,
But what I couldn't ferret out of tonight was the sidewalk, because they were thinking that would increase their assessment.
That's
Because
what
the
I don't-
sidewalk would be part of the city expense. And I think you quoted 66.3.
And we have a
as the
sidewalk in
possible
Howard
number.
and
The-
here.
And
You mentioned the widening of the sidewalk, or excuse me, the widening of the
66.
street and the sidewalk would be,
66.
would be covered by the city.
potentially the
Potentially,
widening of the
Right.
road. That's the sidewalk was on its own, I
Oh.
believe.
Right, I think
But the
that's
widening of the road,
66,
that
right?
would have to be a greater
Right.
discussion, because Howard is 26 feet, so it's trying to stay.
I mean, that's what we see cities at times is, okay, yeah, we're widening the road to make, you know, for these reasons. Like sometimes it's a collector street or something and the city just says, okay, we're gonna assess residents at a standard city street, which you have a lot of 26 feet wide streets. But if we widen it, then we're gonna pick that up beyond our 65%. We're just gonna say that
Right, but
widening.
I haven't heard anybody here advocating for a wider road.
Mm-mm.
Tonight.
I think that's an agreement.
I think we stick with the 26-foot road. That gives you the direction you're looking for.
No parking on one side.
Right, I
Same
mean,
thing.
that's the price you pay for a 26-foot road, no
Yeah.
parking on one side. I still think the open issue of the sidewalk, that would be a city expense, not assessed to the owners, still has some appeal from a trail and from a safety perspective of getting kids down that street to the school.
And I would support a sidewalk on Howard south of Independence, because I think ultimately the pedestrian crosswalk to the Baker Park is on that street. And so I'd hate to encourage kids to go, I know you were maybe talking north side, kids getting to that park, but I think if we send kids to 12 to have to do that little bit along 19 there, I said 12, but I meant 19, to get to the pedestrian crosswalk, I think that's more dangerous than sending them down Howard to get to Main Street. And that also connects with, there's one on Howard to the MPFC area as well, so.
I would reach out to them to find, given that, reach on the sidewalk issue. If it's a city expense, are you in favor of it?
But that would be what that January hearing,
Yeah.
John, would allow.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And I think too, we need to be looking forward, you know, in 5 years, Lord willing, our downtown is not gonna look the way it looks right now.
Mhm.
You know, we don't wanna make a decision now that in 5 years we'll be like, oh, I really wish I'd put the sidewalks so people
Yeah.
could get down there. So we need to, you know, look at all aspects of it. All right, so sidewalk, we're not in agreement yet. We're gonna get more feedback in January. Is
That
everyone
works with me.
Okay with that?
Yeah, I will just want to caution council that staff is going to start the bonding process. That's a 3-month process. So looking at this schedule, so I kind of need I'll work with Dan with the feedback that you guys have given tonight and kind of put together a number that we need to bond for because we need to get going on that. It's not something that if we want to meet this schedule, we can really wait on into January. Typically, we would look at the project. We would take your feedback in terms of the 26-foot road. The sidewalk we'd probably add in just because that isn't decided yet, and then get a pretty accurate engineer's cost and go from there and start the process. So,
Is there any unused bonded dollars in this city that could put in a sidewalk on Independence?
I'd have to look at that, whether we could do that or not. The other component that we need to remember is, well, I suppose we'll bond for this project and then we'll use capital funds for Rainbow and Maple Ridge, that project, which will be kind of piggybacked off each other in the bidding process. So that's good for me. I'm in a good place.
The
So
discussion.
You still need direction on the sidewalk? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, I was, there's that discussion on the sidewalk on Howard between Main Street East and Independence. That, when I was looking at the cost, it was just on Independence Street. So I think that's something if the council wants to, I think that was a good point that was brought up. If we want to maybe for sure have a sidewalk there, the question of Independence is still out there. That would be helpful to have a little more feedback on.
Well, and I think too, if we're restricting parking to one side, that almost creates, even though you don't have an official walking path, like I don't feel the need to stripe it like you said, but I think that almost creates that unofficial, to me, sidewalk. So I don't feel the need for it. Because I think there were some on the walk who said they didn't want to shovel. So, I mean,
Right.
there was a couple of those, but whether or not that's
Well,
everyone.
sidewalks require maintenance.
Right.
The concrete's guaranteed to do one thing, crack.
Correct.
Right. And let's say we're kicking ourselves 5 years from now, there's no sidewalk. Is that something we could put in 5 years from now?
Yeah.
I
It's a
mean, does it
sidewalk.
have to be with this project? Or
Yeah, you can always add sidewalk in at a later date. It's just always, it just seems like it works. It's the least expensive for a community to do it when you're
okay.
redoing the whole
And
street.
it's easier.
Yeah,
Easy.
if we're-
It's a lot easier
But
to
if
do it
in
now.
3 years on down the line or 6 years on down the line, we're bonding for or planning for Perkins and what have you.
Sure.
We've got the mobilization in the same area.
Sure.
So I mean, if we 3 years on down the line, we're going, dang, we really should have pulled that trigger back in 2017.
You would certainly have the opportunity to do
Certainly
it.
do it then while we're working on that northeast corner of Maple Place.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm hearing at this point, we're not going to figure in the sidewalk.
Is that, or is it like bringing it back at that January meeting? Is that what
Well,
you
They
said?
all
Right.
spoke clearly tonight. so-
Oh.
He needs
Yeah.
bonding. He
Yeah,
needs-
no, I can
Saying
take
don't
that.
put it in.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll show in
Mhm.
January.
That's
Okay.
fine.
I don't think you're gonna get a lot of resident pushback for that.
Yeah.
call.
yeah, yeah, we're doing exactly what they asked. So.
So we did, talked about the width, the
And didn't you
sidewalk,
say
the
that
bike.
Yeah.
the curbs, the style of the curb is really the same price anyways, right?
Yeah, it's, I mean, there might be
Couple
50
inches.
cents a foot. You know, the one that has just a little bit more concrete than the other, so it's a minor cost.
And did we hit all the areas you needed direction on, Dan?
I think so. I think that was very good, so.
Okay. Any other discussion or any other thoughts? All right, so with that, I'm looking for a motion for Resolution 17-1218-06, the street reconstruction preparation of plans and final feasibility study.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by DeLuca,
Second?
second by Cahill. Any further discussion?
And that is with the discussion we had tonight.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, it is a resolution, so it'll be a roll call vote again.
Councilmember Fay.
Aye.
Councilmember DeLuca.
Aye.
Councilmember Broda.
Aye.
Councilmember Cahill.
Aye.
Mayor Moskowski.
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-0.
Next item of business this evening is change order number 1 for well number 4.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In your packet is information related to change order number 1 to Municipal Builders for the amount of $6,498.44. And you can see on the pink, mine was a pink copy. Was yours pink?
It's scanned a different color behind it.
Oh. Yeah, you can see the 5 items that are related to that change order. These were items that Public Works had requested and felt this would be a good time to deal with these items. From a standpoint of we looked at the budget part of the project, and there's around $6,700 worth of stuff that isn't, once again, it's, if you didn't do these, you'd have that $6,700 that's not being used. But from a Public Works standpoint, they just said these are things we feel we need and will just help make things even better than what they have. And so I think at that point we get prices from the contractor and bring it to the council for discussion and feedback.
I have feedback. When we had a change order last summer from Trot Wells, and it was, I think, pea gravel for the grouting or something along that line, I thought we reached a understanding or a conclusion that when a change order comes up, that we're gonna get a chance to look at it ahead of time from a council standpoint, instead of approving. Is this work that's been done?
Well, typically, they get done on a consent agenda item. Typically, they're not discussed in a business meeting standpoint for the most part.
This never made it to a consent agenda, though.
No, I purposely don't put them on a consent agenda because I know that discussion wants to take place. So I provide that opportunity, but typically on change orders in the past or payments to contractors, they do end up on a consent agenda.
Was this a request to do the work, or is this a request to be paid for the work that's already been done?
To do the work.
Oh. It
Yeah.
makes it look like it's already been done.
No.
Oh,
See,
never mind.
We would so this is a change
No.
order and we bring it back on a payment request.
Yeah.
Okay, so none of this work has been done?
No.
Okay. Never mind. Very well.
All right. So with that, looking for a motion to approve change order number 1, well number 4.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cahill,
Second.
second by Councilmember Rhoda. Any further discussion regarding this?
Will the contractor be doing all this work, or are they gonna be subbing out all this work?
I believe the contractor is doing all this work.
I mean, I'm just painting, piping, and indoor facilities, and I'm wondering why couldn't Public Works be painting, or is that not something,
It's something that you want it professionally done. I would say that I would rather have our guys with the maintenance aspect of the water treatment plant, with all of the upgrades that we've done to it. If these upgrades can take place, let's do it right. Let's finish it up that way. That's how we've been doing this whole project, and this is kind of the last tail end bit to it, and then we're all done.
All right.
Bobby, how necessary is painting the piping? I mean, I get relocating the lighting control, adding these things, replacing air filter, blah, 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 but
I think it's important because from an aesthetic standpoint, when you drive by the water treatment plant at night, it's lit up. It's a nice aesthetic component that shows the city, this
that
is our
what
water.
we're gonna see in the window.
From my understanding, it is
I mean,
that
I think some of it is in the well
Number
3.
It's in a
and-
building.
Yeah, so I just remember Harry and Matt saying about, there's some rust that shows up on piping after some time, so if you don't repaint it and touch it up, and I know there's certain product that, it's not just like, I think that you can just buy off the shelf. I mean, there's some stuff that they use on ductile iron pipe that sweats, and so to keep it from rusting. And so I think that was what I recall on some of their discussions at our staff meeting, that was a concern on at least the well number 3 piping.
Well, it's the same thing if you don't paint your car, it's gonna rust. So I read this assuming it was for that reason. It's just a maintenance thing for long-term durability. But
Where will these dollars come from, Bobby?
They'll come from our bonding project.
Bonding
We're
project.
within the budget,
Okay,
so they'd become from that. It wouldn't be out of any other fund.
thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of approving change order number 1 for well number 4?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item, review liquor license applications.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. What you have before you is a number of liquor license applications that have been run through a process. How this process typically works is staff notifies all of the businesses that sell liquor in one shape or another. There's a variety of different liquor licenses that is all kind of written out by the state. They all have requirements. So you could be serving just wine or wine and beer or hard alcohol. These all have different licenses mandated by the state. And as a result, we do have 5 establishments here in town. We have Moni's, we have McGarry's, M&M Wine and Spirits, a liquor store, Blackwater, and Liquor Depot, our other liquor store. So even just hearing the list, you can tell that alcohol is distributed by these establishments differently amongst them. So there's different licenses that come that way. Part of the process in order to receive your liquor license from the city, of course, you need to be approved by the state, which they're in the process of. They have to get approved by the city first for that to take place. We've been going through it. These are all repeat applicants. There's no new applicants from last year. There's one stipulation I would ask for both the liquor and tobacco coming up is that we are in the middle of the background checks with West Hennepin. So I would ask for approval pending those background check approvals, which at this time, there's no reason for us to think they won't because they all are repeat applicants. Yeah, these are the 5 establishments that I've listed that are requesting for their liquor licenses from the city, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from Mayor and City Council. Thank you.
I just have more of a point of order with this. So there's a lot of personal information on these licenses, just in terms of like employee birthdays and like contact information, references. And I don't necessarily know if those people have like given the okay for their information to be public. And so if possible in the future, I've seen other cities, they don't actually include the actual license that's sent out.
Sure.
Kind of like how we did the Bud deferral, it was sent to
So
confidentially to.
I know we get away with a lot of it
Yeah.
because they're public applications, so they have to be approved by council. So we
I'm not saying it's illegal, but in this day and age, the great thing about the internet is transparency, but the downside is there's identity theft. And as someone who's been a victim of that,
Sure.
let's just be careful about what.
we blacked out the social security numbers. I
Yeah,
will say that.
yeah, so that was good. But I think it's not necessarily something that needs to be in a public packet.
Sure.
I even saw, I think Wayzata does, they approve it pending the city administrator's approval or, making sure the license has all the requirements. So
Sure.
just kind of a point of order.
No, that's very fair. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Well, you said it better than I could. I kind of thought the same thing as I went through it, so I had some concerns with that as well. But
Perfect.
All right. With that, I'm looking for a motion to approve the liquor license applications pending the background checks.
So moved.
Moved by Fay.
Second.
Second by Cahill. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item, review tobacco license applications.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. What you have before you is a request by 2 establishments here in town, Moni's and Liquor Depot, for tobacco, to receive a tobacco license from the city of Maple Plain. This list is a little different from last year. Last year and previous years, we had McGarry's here in town that also requested a tobacco license. This year, they did not apply for a tobacco license. Out of the, that was something that I don't know how many cigars they were selling out of McGarry's, but there wasn't an interest this year to pursue a tobacco license. So at this time, staff is bringing 2 applicants, Moni's and Liquor Depot, who are both applying for liquor licenses and are requesting a tobacco license approved by City Council pending West Hennepin background checks.
Looking for a motion to approve tobacco license for Moni's and Liquor Depot pending all background checks.
So moved.
Moved by Rhoda,
Second.
second by Cahill. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And our last item of business this evening is council reports. And we will start with Councilmember Cahill.
I attended the planning commission meeting. We had lots of really good discussion. There were no applicants or action, just discussion. 2 themes that came out is how to encourage our neighbors and businesses to beautify and maintain their properties around town. And that came through strongly in the community survey as well. So we were discussing how we might approach that. And then also just how enforcement with compliance of ordinances and CUPs are going. So they were looking for more information on that or more direction from council.
A little light. Watershed was canceled for lack of an extensive agenda for the month of December. I did attend with my wife the View Santa at Northside Park. I think it was the 3rd of December. Nice night that the fire department put together. And have been regularly attending Rotary meetings, and as has the mayor, and I will make note that discussion is being had over coordinating Maple Plain and Rotary for a potential street dance this summer, maybe in conjunction with one of the Maple Plain events, maybe independent of it, but a citywide event with music, outdoor activity, and fundraiser.
Councilmember DeLuca.
No report.
All right. Councilmember Rhoda.
No report.
All right. It's been a busy month. We did have police commission.
I thought you would handle that.
Oh,
one.
thank you. Approve the budget, and everything is moving ahead with there. I had the honor of attending the Regional Council and Mayor's meeting and the Northwest Hennepin League meeting. And again, just kudos to staff and to my team for the awesome budget. It was fun to watch people's faces and shock with both the reduced levy and budget, so nice work. Also was able to attend the Metro meeting last week, sponsored by the League of Minnesota Cities and Metro Cities, and that's always very powerful. We talked about communication, the Super Bowl, and then looked at cities as a whole. And just wanted to thank West Hennepin Public Safety for the tradition of View Santa, and then they partnered with the museum, who gave away cookies and cider, and the chamber, who did the tree lighting, and the fire department, who helped with the fire pit. So it's really become a city event. So it's been fun to watch that grow, and it's a great way to celebrate our city and our community. So thank you to everyone who made that event possible. Any other business? With that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Broda,
Second.
second by DeLuca. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned at 9:50.
Is this the latest one in a long time?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Has been.